welcome to week 16 for our design reveal. Yay, Janelda, you caught my notification. Glad to have somebody join me today. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I decided to go for a walk this morning, so then I had to shower and make myself cool myself off because it's going to be 90 degrees here today, so it was a little warm. But anyways, I'm ready to go. I'm happy that people are interested in our project today, and I want to show you my design reveal. I still have not figured out what I'm going to do on Sunday as far as our next draw. I think I might just draw my cards and post them because there are so many events going on this weekend, videos between the Great Bead Extravaganza and if you're a metalsmither or some of the other Virtually Ever Crafting is also running classes this weekend. So so as not to compete with them, I'm either going to do a really quick video later in the day on Sunday, or I may just, like I said, draw my cards and post them, and I'll join you on Thursday for the design reveal. So I'm glad you're looking forward to this design. I will we'll go through our week 16 design real quick, but then these little rings that I'm going to show you how to make today. I can't take total credit for the design. I did see somebody else post one on another group that I'm in, and I thought, oh, that looks like fun. So I played with the design a little. I'm not a direct copy of theirs, but I do want to give them credit, and if I knew who the person was, I would give you credit, but I'd have to go back and look. But anyways, like I said, not taking credit for the design, but I've had super duos in my stash for quite a while. I'm always thinking I'm going to make the super duo wrap bracelets, either with the leather, because you can make some really cool designs by offsetting them a little, or you know, they now have a lot of ones that are very similar to wraps with the design that I'm going to show you today. So anyways, we'll show that, but let me go ahead and show you the week 16 design. I told you I was going to do it with memory wire because that's what I drew. But, and I do have this from Stars Beads store back in the day. This small memory wire. I don't love this for rings, but it's great for, you know, like if you're making little markers for wine glasses, or something along that line, or something you need a hoop, you know, a sturdy hoop that's not real large for. I played with a couple of different designs. Matter of fact, I tried to make a super duo ring. I don't know what I did with it. Oh, I'll show you my I tried to make a super duo ring using 2 pieces of the memory wire, but I had too big of beads in between, and it didn't work out. And then at that point I decided I really didn't want to play with it, so I stopped. So I went with the really basic, which is why I decided not to show you me making the memory wire ring today. I did put some tan beads. All I had was clear ones, but they're tan. And then I had to use bright colors and something inspired by the current season. So I do have bright colors in here, but when I post this, I'm also going to post some of my spring blooms that are going on around my area. And you'll see that many of these colors are what's currently in bloom here. So that's using bright colors, and my spring colors all work together for me on this design. So the other thing is, this stuff, you know, doesn't stretch out. You know, when you use memory wire on your wrist, it kind of stretches out to your wrist size. I have to say, this stuff, and maybe if I'd only done 2 rounds, it would stretch more, but you know, it works for a pinky ring. It met the criteria. And I was able to do it because I had the tiny memory wire. But most people probably don't have that, and I would have just put the memory wire card back and drawn again. But anyways, that is our the results of our week 16 design. I will post that later. But let's talk a little bit about these fun super duo rings. So I got a little carried away. I made made a whole bunch of them last night. So let me take these off. So the one that I saw on the other group, the person said it was made with elastic. So this was the first one I made, and it is made with elastic. So you need to use super duos and like size 11 beads in between. Anything bigger than a size 11. You can use one of these I made with size 10. If you shop at Michael's or John Bead, they have size 10, which is pretty close to an 11. My understanding it's supposed to be an 11 with a slightly bigger hole, but I am not a seed bead expert by any means. So anyways, the first one I made, I did make with elastic, and then I did a knot here. You know, I brought the two ends together, so I went all the way up one side and then down the other side, and then I made my knot. I decided to change up my design after that. I mean, it works, but you definitely have to glue this. There's no way with these little tiny beads that you can hide your knot with this particular design that's just the super duos and the size 11 beads. And just for reference, so I think this had 18 super duos, so it would have 19, 38 of the little tiny beads. It doesn't take a whole lot, but so that comes out to, without stretching it too far, about an 8.5, just for reference. And you'll just have to play with it a little. And I will say the sizing is a little different, but then after I played with that a little bit, I decided, you know, it'd be nice to be able to hide my knot. So I thought, you know, how about if I put something in the middle? So you could do what I did with a metal bead, or you could do, you know, any kind of bead really as your center. But I would say the only thing I would make sure is that you have room to hide your knot, because that's the whole point of, so your, whatever you're using to string it needs to go through that main bead twice so that you can hide your knot in there, your stretchy knot. So then, because, you know, I can't just leave things be sometimes, I thought, well, let me see if I could do it with SoftFlex, because it's a little sturdier. I guess I'm always paranoid about my elastic breaking. Not that, you know, there's a lot of expensive beads in this ring or not, but you know, but why make something that won't last a while, right? So this one and this one are made with using SoftFlex. And then I had a really hard time with my crimp bead for some reason. So I put a crimp bead to cover up my, where I crimped it. You know, you could make the crimp sort of part of your design, like put one on each side of your main bead if you wanted to do something like that. But I thought, you know, just having the crimp bead on the bottom kind of hit it, and it made for a cute design. My fingers are a little swollen because of my warm walk, so my rings are not fitting. But again, so those of you that have bought cards directly from me and or the bunny kits should have these little cat faces. So here's another project to do with the cat face. So my this one done on SoftFlex is about an 8. And it actually used I think 17. Oh, sorry, 15 super duos, because I put the and then I had the crimp in the back, and you know, the cat head bead took up some of the room. So obviously this isn't flexible. This, if you're going to use SoftFlex, you need to fit it to the size that you want it. Whereas, you know, there's a little bit of flexibility in the elastic ones. And even though you can hide your thing, I still recommend putting a little glue on that. So I'm going to show you, I think I'm going to show both of these. They really don't take that long to make. See, the elastic at least fits on my finger while it's a little swollen. So let me put these aside. Now, because we're using size 11 beads the holes are so small, you do need to use fine SoftFlex. I did make one, or I was messing around, and I think I ended up not. Oh, I know what happened. It ended up way too big, and I don't know. Oh, here it is. And I had the crimp next to the bead, because I was thinking I needed to make it bigger when I was using the SoftFlex, but I forgot to account for some of my bead. But this one I used fine EconoFlex, which fits, but you have to be careful because it does kink, whereas the fine SoftFlex will not kink as you're doing it. If you want to use elastic, I would use 0.5 millimeter because it fits through the beads. So again, you know, my concern about the elastic potentially wearing out, like I said, it's not that this is an expensive design or using a lot of beads. So, you know, it's not the end of the world if it breaks or I have to remake it. But you'll see what I ended up doing was, so my design actually goes once through, and then, so I use a continuous piece, and then I go through the second level with the crossover between the bead and between the crimp if you're using both. So I'm going to start with the SoftFlex one because I think it'll be a little easier to see, and then we'll do the stretchy one. So just so I didn't have to calculate the size, I am using regular 2x2 crimps because you're going to go through it. So I know sometimes with the fine you may want to use a smaller crimp, but we're going to go through it basically 3 times, so it works. I'm going to just make a matching one for my other cat thing. I'm going to use a bead stopper, and I also have a crimp cover for when we're done. So if I make it the same size as this one, what did I say? I had 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, so 15 for that size, which I like to wear rings on my middle finger. It works for me. I know I have big fingers. I never understand the people that have the super skinny fingers because I've always had big fingers my entire life. So even when I was, you know, super skinny, my bone structure, I guess I have that European large bone structure. So, you know, so your wire needs to be cut about, so you need to be at least twice around and then have a little extra. So really about 8 inches, which is probably a little long, but you know, you don't want to run out. So I'm just going to eyeball it because that's what I do. So if you're going to use a crimp, that has to be your end. So, you know, initially you do want to use bead stopper. And then put your crimp on. So you'll see, like on this one, because to fit me exactly, it's an uneven number, but you know, to make it smaller, you could do it. So I liked the design, you know, the thought of this replacing one of the super duos. So I do put, you know, just the beads on. So I will say that it is easier to string beads with the SoftFlex, obviously, than the elastic. You will see when I attempt that it does take me a little. If you're not used to using super duos, sometimes depending on what design they are, the holes may be filled in is another advantage of using the SoftFlex, is because you can usually poke through it. I keep a little piece of wire that I put through it, but the other thing is you can always check them beforehand. I know that's a common thing that people talk about when they use super duos. And, you know, pick the combination of size 11 and super duos that works for you. Oops. And don't skip the bead, the spacer bead. I'm using, on this particular design, these are John beads, so I must have gotten them from Michael's, the turquoise, but they have a, it's a little, you know, it's patina, but it's some looks copper, some looks kind of brass. I'm using copper spacers that I bought, or size 11 copper beads. These are actually metal, but they're which is the other reason why I like using the because I didn't have copper in glass beads in size 11, which I don't really know why, other than, like I said, I'm not a seed beater, but I have a lot of them. So I'm using these metal beads. So I do feel more comfortable with using those metal beads on the SoftFlex because it's not going to, you know, scrape against the material and wear it down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm at 7 here. So now I gotta make sure I put on my center bead. Since I'm using 15, I do have an odd number, so you can do the 7 or the 8 on either side. I probably should have just counted these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or I'm liable to just keep adding and not realizing that my ring is way too big. You know, you can back out, you know, go backwards and take things off. I had to do that a couple times because, you know, with the different centers, obviously it'll be a different size ring, and you'll have to adjust. I'll show you again the little cactus one, because I did have to play with that sizing on that one a little, because the bead's not the same size as my cat head. So hope all of you are having a good week and looking forward to the big weekend of, like I said, there's lots and lots of online classes this weekend. Hopefully, you know, you guys can catch as much as you want. Fortunately, you know, almost all of it's available on replay, so if you miss something, you know, with the different time zones, it's tough sometimes. So. All right, so I have this this strung. Now, I found it easiest. So now what I'm going to do is string it back through the crimp bead, and just the crimp bead. You don't want to string through any of the other beads, assuming your wire actually would fit, because, you know, this is small. We're with small beads here. And then you want to, you know, tighten this up a little. You don't have to do it too tight, but the reason I want to tighten it up now is to see, you know, that now's the time you can stick it on your finger, see if it fits. And since I know that I already did that size, it should fit fine for me. So now after, like I said, we've got everything on there. We've strung it through the, so you want, you know, just a short end here. You want your longer end here. Quite honestly, you can, once you've done a few more beads, you can take the bead stopper off. So if it's getting in your way, feel free to take it off. But so now I'm doing the second row and I'm going through the other side. So I'm going to add my size 11 bead, then I'm going to just go through the open hole in the Super Duo, and that's all I'm going to do to string around around this, and we'll give it a good squeeze at the end, or a good tightening up at the end. I did not try this with Fireline. Now, certainly you could do it with Fireline, and I think it'd be very similar to, you know, doing it with the SoftFlex, other than you'll have to use a needle, obviously. I don't have, I do use Fireline for, you know, when I'm doing my peyote stitch patterns, but I don't tend to use fibers. I prefer wire, just for stability of my designs. I always talk about things breaking, and the funny thing is, I don't really have that much stuff. That stuff doesn't break on me that often because I'm not hard on my jewelry, but you know, I just don't want to have to think about it, quite honestly. So using quality products or wire. So now that I'm up here, see, I went through the cat head. So, you know, I can't say which direction the wires cross or whatever there, and I don't think it really matters. You know, you don't have to pay too much attention to which side, you know, whether it comes out the top or the bottom, but then you just continue going through this. So, Janelda, I do know I've seen a lot of designs online lately with neon super duos. So you could have made neon super duo rings if you get some of those beads. But I will say, I guess you either have to order them online or from a you know, a local bead shop or something. Certainly none of the stores around here, the big box craft stores, so much in the way of neon, which is interesting because it seems to be having a sort of a resurgence right now. So see, as I'm getting here towards the end, my stuff's not really going to fall off anymore, so I can take that bead stopper off and get it out of my way. Got a couple more beads. And then we're going to see how it's finished, and hopefully everything cooperates for me. So, you know, it may take you a little longer the first time to figure out sizing, especially if you're wanting a different size than I'm making here. So once I get back here, then I'm just going to go back through the crimp. So that's why I said, you know, I've got 3 wires going through the crimp. So anybody out there joining us, please say hello and let us know you're here. If you're joining me on the replay, I'd love to know who's out there and what you think of this design. It's really pretty simple and quick design once you know what size you need. That's, I think, the figuring out the sizing probably took me the longest. So before I crimp, you know, obviously I want to kind of tighten both ends. So apparently on both sides of that, I forgot my my copper beads. So I could take it apart, but I think I'm not going to do that live. And quite honestly, since I'm going to put a crimp cover on there, it's probably really not going to be noticeable. So now, you know, certainly is the time to, you know, slide it on your finger, see if it fits. because once you crimp it, obviously you're stuck with whatever size you had. So you know, then once you have all this, you're happy that that's the right size. You've got your crimp there. So I'm going to use just a regular crimper, and you center your crimp in the back slot and squeeze, and you get a little divot in there. So then you want to turn it sideways and put it in the front part of the crimper and squeeze down. So you'll end up with something with that little hole in there. At this point, I usually just give it another squeeze with a pair of pliers because, again, I'm paranoid that things will come apart. But there you go. You know, this design's not going to fall apart that easily. So one thing, by using a continuous thread and just going through, you know, crossing it through here and through here, if my crimp were to fail, it's not going to come apart easily. So you'll have plenty of time to sort of know that it's going. It's not like a bracelet where, you know, you only have the cord at one end. So anyways, let's see. Like I said, I was having troubles with my crimp covers last night. I'm going to go ahead and trim this wire just because it'll be in my way. Be careful not to trim the other ones, but just the tail. And, you know, it takes a little maneuvering, but you can get your crimp cover in there. Yeah, I know people were talking about crimp, you know, you can do crimp covers with your crimpers. You have to be really careful. You know, do whatever works for you. I think regular pliers I'm a little more used to. Maybe if I had the bigger crimpers. I just learned this week, I didn't even know that there were different size crimp pliers for these the divot crimpers. They're apparently there's the mighty crimper if you're using 3mm or higher or larger crimpers, and there's even a mini one if you use a lot of fine stuff and small. Maybe all of you knew that. I didn't, but sorry, I wasn't seeing comments. Oh, show how to do. Yeah, you love watching TV. You have some glow in the dark. Oh, you have all 3 size crimpers, so you knew that. You know, I guess I just I hadn't been looking for crimping pliers. So, but anyways, so there's our design using the SoftFlex, and like I said, you have to use fine. I'm sure that'll fit fine when my fingers calm down from my walk, my warm walk. So, anyways, so a fun little thing to do with the cat beads. So, now let's do one, and I'm going to use different beads just because, you know, I only need so many turquoise and but I'm still going to use you know what, I'll use one of my little fish beads, which I used in this one. You know, I was looking around lately for fish beads to see how easy they were to find, and I have not seen them at some of the stores, but they were sold out of them. I think it's not that they don't sell them, they were sold out. So let me just switch out my beads here. All right. So with the elastic, I don't need a crimp or a crimp bead. I am going to use some purple beads here that I have. And again, just so I don't have to spend time figuring out the sizing, I will count out the, I should probably use the one that's the same size, but I think they're both. All right, so I used 15 Super Duos in here, so. And I do have other color ones, but you know, it shouldn't be too surprising that I have mostly purple and turquoise. So this one I did with the little cactus bead, which also those of you that have bought these from me should have those too. The sizing was a little different on that, but you know, it works. It took a little playing, but 5, 6, 7, 8. I said 15. You know, I was thinking when I started making these that I would need a more, and that's why this came out so big, that I would need more when it wasn't flexible. But it's actually, it lays a little stiffer, so you actually need less or the same number as in the elastic. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I put too many out, I will just get carried away and keep going and make it too long, and then I have to do something different. So for the elastic, like I said, the 0.5 is what went through the small beads. Again, you want to pre-stretch it. You need about the same amount again. Like I said, I would stretch it a little bit just so that you have it pre-stretched. I don't think it really matters what you know, what kind of elastic you use. It's whatever works for you, but like I said, you're going to have to use the 0.5 millimeter to go through the little tiny 11 beads. So here I'm going to put my basically my fish on first, and then because I want the knot to go inside him when I'm done, so it's covered. So we'll put the fish on. Doesn't really matter which direction, because he, you know, he'll, and you could initially work on the spool, but eventually when you go back around that second one, it would be awkward. You know, you probably still could. I like to have the small beads next to the fish. Now here's where this is going to be tough for you guys to see, and it may be painful watching me try to get my elastic through the hole, because I picked clear beads. They're very hard to see. There we go. It's a little hard to see. Maybe I need to wear my reading glasses instead of my regular glasses, but so these particular Super Duos are kind of coated, so they are ones that sometimes the holes are covered up slightly, but I have been able to make them, you know, I just need to poke like a piece of SoftFlex or something through there. So now, like I said, I'm just going to string these on again, going just through one side. Again, my first one, I don't know if you've ever made the stretchy Tila bracelets. I used sort of the closure on, like there, the knots by that Candy Cooper showed on the stretchy Tilas, if you've ever watched her videos. Again, I think it's a little precarious as far as coming apart, because that one, if it breaks, my whole thing's going to fall off. Whereas by doing it this way, by stringing it, you know, through one side and then through the other side, it makes it less likely to fall off of you if something goes wrong. So, and I apologize that if you can't see, you know, when I'm working with tiny stuff, it's not easy, and it's kind of boring to just watch somebody string. But maybe you've got some materials out. Like I said, it doesn't take much. I think a glow-in-the-dark one would be fun. I have seen those, but I don't own any. Somebody, the local bead shop here was advertising glow-in-the-dark beads the other day. The good thing about the stretchy one, since my center is already on there, I don't have to keep track of whether I'm in the middle, you know, and stop to go through there. I can just string my entire beads and then go back through the second way. So again, it's the same, basically the same as when we were doing the SoftFlex. And like I said, I am sure it would work fine with Fireline and a needle, and then you wouldn't be struggling to get your cord through the tiny beads, because you'd have your needle to help you. Like I said, my go-to is not usually Fireline unless I'm doing peyote, you know, or brick stitch or something. But since I don't do a lot of seed beading otherwise, it is not, like I said, something I would start out with. I do know some of the bracelets, there are a lot of people that make bracelets in this design, and they do use Fireline, and it works fine. Like I said, I have not done it. I've been thinking about it because I think they're really fun, especially if you get some fun colors. So that one looks a little, I used the end of my, there, yeah, of my SoftFlex to clear the hole. Hopefully I'm not forgetting any of my in-between beads. Can't believe I forgot them on the end of that other one, but like I said, it's next to the crimp cover, so, and it's on the bottom of the ring, so most people aren't going to notice. If I was making it to sell or give to somebody, I would have gone back and added those. Yeah, the one bad thing about stringing it in this way that I'm stringing it is if you do make a mistake, you have to go, you know, you basically need to discover it at this point before you start going back through, or you have to take off the, you know, take a whole row back out. You know, like I said, I did it as I was playing with sizing. So again, I have my, so I have everything strung on here. I do have my bead there that goes up next to the fish. You know, obviously if you have something with a big hole, you might end up losing your small bead back, back it getting pulled into there. So now I want to just string my, take the other end of my elastic and put it through what's going to be my center bead. And like I said, I want to keep this side fairly short, and I am going to keep the bead stopper on here just until I get a few beads done, because I could end up pulling it out of there. So just like the other one, we go back through. Are you not all your stretch bracelets? Okay. I have to look over to the side to see my comments here because I can't see my phone. I guess I've only ever seen how she does it on the Tila's. I haven't watched her with a regular stretch bracelet. I mean, I do the surgeon's knot, and then I usually add an extra knot, which I think I've shown you, but the two-holed ones I definitely have been using the way it's in Candy's video. And it works, and on some of those you can still put a crimp cover over it to cover up that knot. Since on the two holes it's harder to pull a knot into something. I hope to see some of you guys out there making these little rings. I think they're a lot of fun. Obviously, so I started making, I start playing and I make one, and then I like, oh, I can make it with something else. Oh, I can make it a different color. And they do work as stacks. I mean, unless you have really long fingers, you probably would only stack 2 of them, but you can wear them stacked. So, fortunately, there's not a whole lot of beads involved, so it's not too repetitive watching me struggle with getting my elastic through. The elastic, like I said, is a little harder to, since it's flexible, but once you get it through there, it's fine. And it's impossible to see on the screen because it's clear. So I needed some colored elastic for when we're doing demos. It would be they do make different colors of Fireline, and obviously different colors of SoftFlex. I don't know if I guess in the fine, I think they do make other metallics. I don't have, I only have silver in the fine, which works for me for most things. So, is there any particular kits or presentations you guys are really excited about seeing this weekend on the TGBE? There's always some great stuff by everybody. I never have time to watch everybody, at least live, but I only bought one kit this year, or this time. around, so I hope I'm paying attention and get on there. You know, my usual time on Sunday would be, because of the daylight savings time, would put me in the middle of Kay's presentation, so that's why I'm definitely not going to do that. But like I said, I'll either do it later in the evening or just post my cards, and then we'll see how week 17 goes. All right. Looks like I might to clear that hole out a little bit. I do recommend, you know, if you have some of these, like these ones that are coated, probably best to check the holes before you start stringing. But like I said, I haven't had any that are completely blocked. It's just I have to clear them out a little bit. Apparently I did not clear that enough yet. Like 2 weeks in a row that I've had issues. You all saw my class break in the middle of my design last week. Fortunately, that doesn't happen very often. I have to, which reminds me, I need to go back and look at my bag of clasps and make sure the others aren't, that they didn't have a bad batch, that maybe that was just one. But it's good for you guys to see that not everything works out as planned sometimes, so we're almost there. All right, so now I'm kind of close enough to the end that I can probably take my bead stopper. Need 3 more of these little teeny beads. Some of you probably have these same little teeny beads. I'm pretty sure they came in, they might have come in the gender reveal kit. I know they came in something I bought not too long ago. I just hadn't had a need to use the little tiny tiny beads. Oh yeah, that's definitely clogged. Yeah. So close to the end. Like I said, I think if I was wearing my reading glasses, I'd probably could see all this better. But maybe if I cleaned my glasses too, that would help, because I do have bifocals. Yeah. So close. Look like it's clogged. I think I just missed. All right, maybe it is. Our last one, really. So, note to self, if you're doing this live, check your check your holes. All right, there we go. And I won't forget, I need one more here. because I forgot on the other one. All right, so now so we need to tighten this up, which will take a little maneuvering, you know, because you don't want to stretch too much, but you do want it to be tightened up. And I think I didn't do a great job of keeping things tight, but there. Well, we're getting closer, so all right, so I think we're I'm just going to use a regular surgeon's knot here. So the first thing is just, you know, the right over left and under, and then you kind of want to squeeze it. And I don't want a bunch of elastic showing, but I think it's okay. So I think I did my shorter one. So then I would do left over right, but go under and then go under again. That's this, it makes it a surgeon's knot, remember? So I'm hoping this will straighten out a little. And then I'm going to just do one more, like I said, one more over the top. So then what I want to do is take, one reason I have this long end is I'm going to stick it back through my fish here, and hopefully I think my and the reason I'm doing this is so it'll allow me to pull the knot inside the bead. I don't know why it's not wanting to go through there. There we go. All right. So if I want to put any glue on this knot, this is the time to do it, and I am going to. So again, when using glue on elastic, GS Hypo is the one you want to use because it has some flexibility. You don't want much. So see, I have my little knot here. You just hold this close, get a little dab on there. And if you wanted, you could wrap your knot around the other piece of elastic. I didn't worry about it. Forgot my, always gotta have a Kleenex to wipe off your glue. But now that I have that, now I can just gently, holding both ends of the elastic, just pull that right in there, and then we just trim the ends, which they should get pulled back in. and not show. Again, be careful to not trim the elastic you're trying to keep. Now, this one can twist a little bit, but you know, straighten out as you wear it and put it on. I will, my fish is upside down. All right. So, there we go. You know, you don't want to stretch it too much while that glue's drying, but since it's underneath there, there we go. We have a fish ring. And, you know, no knots showing. And we have our cat ring. So, see, you can stack them, you know, if you make them the same colors or if you make them coordinating colors. 2 rings will work. So, alrighty, that is my little tutorial on making these cute little super duo rings. And if you're like me, you will get carried away and you will have a whole bunch of them. Like I said, I do think, you know, like just a bead, a regular bead, like if you have a small coin like this, is a 8 or 10 mil. I think it's might be a 10 millimeter, but it would, I think it would make a perfect, you know, centerpiece for these kind of rings too, if you didn't want to use a metal bead. Oh, your glasses. Yeah, mine are too. Okay, and Abby, you got their kids. All right. Yeah, I have progressives, and for some reason, I'm not seeing very well. Did I do a small bead? What? Sorry. Next to the crimp on the first one. I meant to. I did it on one side, but not the other side, so that was my mistake that I didn't discover until right at the end. My original design, I did. See, I had 2 small beads on both sides next to the crimp. But like I said, on this one I forgot, so I just left them both off. But like I said, it'll be on the bottom, and since I'm not selling this one or giving this one away, it'll obviously be mine since I did mess up. But yeah, for on these, I like the 2 beads to help as I'm going through, you know, where the single, or where the 2 lines are coming together, so it kind of makes the little V. Does that make sense? I did do small sides on both of the small beads on both sides of the face too, so. Can you see that? Yep. Any other questions? I'm gonna go ahead and flip the camera and I'll actually be able to see the comments live. Yay! So, I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, I'm not taking total credit for the design. Obviously, the plain one I saw on somebody's site, but it just seemed too fun. And like I said, I love how it works with our little cat beads and the fish beads. So, and they're very simple. So those of you that make things to sell, I mean, I'm sure that you could make them up in several different sizes. You'll have to, like I said, play with the sizing a little bit. You know, if I was going to make a bunch of them in different sizes, I'd probably start here. Like I said, I gave you the sizes that it runs about an 8.5, 9, and maybe, you know, just add 1 super duo or just subtract 1 super duo, you know, as you're adjusting the sizes. The good news is the elastic ones will stretch a little, but you don't want them to be too stretchy while you're wearing them. You know, that'll wear out. But again, these are just, they are not expensive to make. They are not, don't use a whole lot of beads. And you can just get carried away like me and make a whole bunch of them. So, anyways. All right. Thanks for watching. Again, if you're catching the replay, let me know you're out there. Please like and follow Desert Cat Creations. We appreciate all the support. And I will, like I said, I will post something on Sunday with my card drawing. I'm down to only 2 make cards, and this will be the end of my used cards. So I have to start all over after next week on the used cards. And we only have 1 make card left. So it is making me want to come out with my new decks pretty quickly. So I do have them put together. I'm hoping to order them in the next week or 2 at the latest. So they should be here definitely in May. It takes them a little while to get printed, but yeah, I'm excited to share those with you, and I think I've got some fun things in line. I'm working with Kay to put together some kits to go with those, either with the decks or to complement them. People won't have to buy cards and kits if they don't want to. We will make the options available, but just a little something extra to go with that. So I'm excited to make all that happen. And like I said, certainly the announcement will be coming. Please join the group if you haven't already. You guys will be the first to get the announcements on the new decks and when they're coming out, and if I'm running any deals. If you haven't joined us already, please do, and we'd love to see your Bead Stash Challenge designs. We're, like I said, I'm having fun. I hope you guys are using them, even if you're not posting, and having a little bit of fun with them. It's certainly gotten me to look through my stash and look for other things that, you know, that have been sitting in there a while that I kind of forgot I had. So it's working for me, although I continue to add to my stash all the time, and every time I put things away, it reminds me of things that I have that I need to use. But hopefully we'll come up with some other projects on some of those things. So I look forward to seeing you all on the TGVE feeds this weekend, and I'm so happy that you're enjoying your cards, and I enjoy seeing all of the stuff that you guys are coming up with. So have a great rest of the week, and like I said, see you all on Saturday or Sunday online, I'm sure, and I will post my cards, and I look forward to seeing what you guys are making next week. Talk to you soon. Bye.